Well, hey guys, welcome to my channel. Welcome to the stream and another chapter working on that guy right there. That just happens to be our F-18F by Hasegawa. It's a Super Hornet. It's 1/48 scale. We're gonna run the intro, yeah, and we'll get started. Okay, we are back, and we're going to continue on this. Last time we spent a good whole hour just putting on landing gear and the bay doors, and that was pretty much it, right? That was last time. So there we go, we have it. There we have it. Our bird with her feet on her, finally. So let's do a little test and see how she sits on her feet. Well, I guess you could say stands on her feet, but let's see how she sits. Wow, how about that? So, you always have the test with these kits, you know, sometimes they like to sit on their butt, and so you wind up having to put weights in the nose. I have not put any weight in the nose of this particular kit, so it's going to be interesting when I put some weight on the tail to see how this guy sits. Now, F-18s, you know, I've built a few F-18s in my life, and I didn't find any real issues with F-18s wanting to sit on their butts. F-16s, yeah, almost every time. So I'm just going to put our wingtips on here just to add the weight. And she's sitting fine, so she's not going to have any problems at all. So, even if I have to push down, actually she's got a lot of weight on the nose. I got to put a lot of weight on the tail to get that to sit like that, or to even want to tip up. One thing I did do off camera is I painted the insides of the engines white. I'll change the camera there, and I'm going to turn down my music because it's a little loud. Okay, let me change the camera here. So I painted the insides of my engine nozzles. They are white. Camera doesn't know what to do, but yeah, there we go. So we've got white on the insides. All I did was just take some flat white and just kind of brushed it over the dark color inside there, and so yeah, we got that. All right. So that leads us to today. What are we going to do today? We've got more little bits that need to be assembled before it can actually go onto the plane. So once again, we're just going to put our plane aside. Okay, we'll put her aside. Over here. Dealing with missiles and the ordnance and the fuel tanks and stuff like that. Now, originally, my thinking was I wanted to have 4 AMRAAMs and 2 AIM-9Xs, 2 sidewinders, but I can't do that. The way they have the pylons designed is only one goes on here, and you need to have the little adapter piece, the little rail that goes onto that. And they only give you 2 of them in the kit. They only give you 2 rails. So you really can only have 2 AMRAAMs. And so that kind of sucks. So I wound up having to paint 2 of the fuel tanks. And I had them just painted maybe 15 minutes ago. I had to spray some light ghost gray on them and put a clear coat on them. So these are hardening. Okay, they're hardening. Let's see, they're curing right now. They're freshly painted, but I don't want to really do anything with them just yet. I am eventually going to get them dirty, just like my center tank is. I'll do that next, once this has had some time to dry. Maybe by the end of this episode, I'll start working on these. We'll see. Because then they will have had a good hour to dry. So, that leaves other things. So, my missiles are pretty much ready to be put onto the wings. So let's have a look at this and just see. So here we have one of my AIM-120 AMRAAMs, and I've got my AIM-9X sidewinders. Here's both of them. I have already installed, well, there's our little ladder we built last time. That's done. I have already installed one of my AIM-120s onto the pylon. And something that I found out was a lucky, you know, a funny little accident. The actual mounting hooks on my 3D printed, these are not kit pieces, right? So these have the actual hooks that are supposed to go on to lock that into the rail, right? because I'll just show you with the kit one. I still have it on the sprue. So there's the kit one, and it just has one big peg. Okay, you see that peg there by what I'm pointing to? That peg is basically just supposed to line up with that hole in there, and so that would just sit something like that. It would just sit on there like this, right? So that's what you'd be looking at if I was using the kit part, but I'm not using the kit part. I'm using my 3D printed one. So she's got these two little hooks on there. See those little hooks? Okay, come on camera, work with me here. Those two little hooks. Come on, fucking bastard camera. So they actually claw around on top of this railing, and this one fit. It actually slides on there. So I'm going to try that with this one. First I'm going to change my glasses, get my correct glasses on here, and I'm going to see if it works on this one too. It was a very tight fit, but still it fit. This one is a little bit tighter, but oh, it's going. See that? Oh, it slides on there just, oh, it's beautiful. I can't believe it actually slides onto it. Get that lined up just like that. And there we go. She actually slides on there just like it was made for it. Isn't that awesome? That is awesome. I'm still going to glue it. I don't want to rely just solely on that, because that is really just two tiny little hooks of resin that I found on another one. When I tried to move it, it went crack and it broke one of them off. Broke off one of the claws. So this one has been glued. I glued it at the back here, and I glued it on one side. So I'm going to do it the same with this one. I'm going to glue it on the other side though. I'm going to flip it like this so I know. Whoa! I'm going to glue it on that side. So let's get some CA glue. These are resins, so you got to use CA glue on resin. As I keep mentioning every time I use my resin parts. You guys who watch my channel often enough, you already know that you have to use CA glue in order to glue resin parts. So that was this side. I want to glue this little hook on here. Just like that. I'm strategically going to have the glued side towards the inside of the plane, and I'm just going to kind of drop some CA glue right in there. Unfortunately, I filled up the back of the missile with it, so we'll just kind of soak that up a little bit there, get that out of there. So I got more glue on the inside of the missile rather than in between the missile and the rail. So I just want to add some more here. There we go. And we'll let that kind of wick down in between the two. Clean up a little excess that's on the outside there. And then we're going to call that done. That's what we call done. So we'll put our CA glue away. Now, one thing I did forget to do last time is an important piece. R6 goes onto the tips of the wings before your rail goes on. Okay? I forgot to put that in there, and I went and glued my rail on. And fortunately, I caught it quick enough that I could pull the rail off and put that in. And so I have the R6 glued in there now. Now I have to paint those. I got to paint my R6. So let's do that. Let's get that finished up here. So I'll grab my dark ghost gray for the bottom part of it. And we'll get our touch-up paint done on these. Dark ghost actually goes on the top, not on the bottom. This dark ghost I'm trying to paint with here has been thinned, so it doesn't really look, and it doesn't look blue enough. I'm going to kind of touch this up a little bit here. She should look a little more blue than what she's looking. She's looking more dark gray. There we go. Okay, let's do this one. I might have to paint it 2 times to get the color coverage that I need on it. And of course, because everything else is weathered, it looks a little out of place. Even my weapon rail here really looks out of place, even though I did try to weather it in a similar fashion. So I think what it is I went and started with a dark base on the plane, and I didn't start with a dark base on my rails. For the underside, we need the light ghost to go on this part here. And at this point, with the weathering I've got under it, I could probably do the dark ghost underneath, and it would probably look pretty good. It would probably look pretty close. Again, my railing just kind of looks like it's been primered and then just like a dark gray and not the blue that it's supposed to be. But that looks a little better. She looks a little clean, but that's okay. We can always add a little bit of grind to it, if need be. I mean, yeah, it does look a little, it looks a little clean compared to the rest of the wing, right? You know what I mean? It looks a little bit clean, so we got to dirty it up. So I'm going to grab some of my engine grime. Let's shake this up a little bit. And we'll just do a couple of little doink, kind of a little smears on there a little bit. Just subtle little. On our little piece too. Now the nice thing about this stuff is if I happen to accidentally put too much on there, it's enamel, so see, like now I've got a little too much on there, but it's enamel, so it can clean it up easy. Just following the pattern of the way the wind goes to dirty it up. There we go. The bottom looks good. Very light touches with the brush. Just to make it all nice and uniform. This is going to be too much, so I'm just going to kind of blotch it a little bit here. Kind of streak it a little bit, ever so subtle. until I can get to a point where it's more of a dry brush. I can even add some to the wing too. Yeah, especially on our stars and bars. So my stars and bars was looking a little too clean. Okay, so I need to clean up this one just a little bit, just a hair. Just because it's just a little too clean, so, or I mean a little too dirty, sorry. So we're going to clean my brush. What I'm going to do is use my white spirit thinner. We'll kind of clean up the brush a little bit, dip it in there, and use that to clean the brush. Because the brush is wet, it will reactivate it on here, and we can kind of, clean it up a little bit and make it just a little less brown looking. That looks good. That looks good. We look a lot more uniform now. And I'm going to use lacquer thinner to clean the brush properly. Okay, so there we have it. Our wingtips are all matchy-matchy now. So we can glue our AIM-120s on there. Or sorry, our AIM-9Xs. These do not have any little clips. These are just going to sit on there. And I need to try and determine at what point, that's the whole trick here, how back do I just line them up and have them exactly like this? Or do they sit a little forward? Do they sit backwards? I want to see exactly how they intended this. So we've got little pegs here. So let's have a look at the kit. The kit missile is right here. We've got the two alignment things right there, here and here. So let's see how this thing lines up on there. So she sits actually quite forward. Quite a bit forward on that. So our fins almost go at the very beginning. I want to say, I'm just going to take this off the sprue completely here. Okay, so this guy would sit right there, which means it's really that bracket. So this mounting bracket is what's going to line up with that peg hole right there, just like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some CA glue on my 3 brackets. And then I'll just line them up on there, touch, and that's where she's going to sit. It's just like that. Alright, so CA glue. We can take this, put it aside. CA glue again and again because they're resin. My missiles are resin, so I gotta use CA glue. I don't need that much CA glue. We'll drop on that one, drop on that one, a little more. I want enough that it fills the gap, but not so much that it's going crazy on me. So we'll line our rear one up with that hole, and she's going to sit like that. She should be straight. And hopefully not get too much CA glue on my fingers because I grabbed the mounting bracket. You gotta be strategic where you're grabbing onto it. There we go. CA is starting to hold. And so there's one of our AIM-9Xs mounted. Okay, so unfortunately I can sit this down like this and she'll stand up so that we'll get no interference from anything. So put that off to the side and we'll get another one. Go. I don't think I'm going to need any more, so we can close this up. Strategically holding it and line up our dots. Kind of went off kilter on me. There we go. I guess the nice thing about this being, like my resin missiles being somewhat accurate in how they're supposed to grab on, they actually sit like they're meant to go on there. Okay, there's our other one. Alright, so we're going to set that aside. So our missiles are mounted. Alright. Missiles are mounted, and that's about all we can do right now. We got a couple of little bits to do. Like, I suppose I can do 2 more AMRAAMs underneath. Oh, I can! How about that? I could put AMRAAMs on each side of the fuselage because I've got mounting pegs for them. Number 28. Let's grab those. R28s. Let's grab those, okay? My plane is going to have AMRAAMs. 4 AMRAAMs after all. I have them painted already too. Gunmetal right there. That's unfortunate that you were able to get through the spam filter. These are going to be a little bit tricky in getting off the sprue. So I'll just cut the sprue itself. So we got to clean these up. Got to get in here where they're connected. There we go. So there's 2, but we have to clean them up because they got to be round on the inside. But you get these awful kind of nub things on the inside of them. So the kit kind of assumes that you're going to have your 2 AMRAAMs on the wings and then nothing in these things. Almost like, yep, that's all you get. You get your 2 AMRAAMs and you get nothing underneath the body. But that's the beauty of doing 3D printed stuff, is I could just load up the bottom of this plane with some AMRAAMs if I wanted to. In fact, I could have 3D printed a bracket to actually have 2 AMRAAMs on that pod, but that would not have been accurate, and well, I like to even though I don't mind a little inaccuracy, just because, you know, it looks cool, I do try to make my stuff, you know, kind of accurate to real life. You know, like, you take a look at, for example, something like the A-10 Warthog or Thunderbolt 2, whatever you prefer. You buy the kits for those, you get a buttload of bombs and stuff like that. And some guys will just fill up every single pod with weapons, with the ordnance on those things. And from what I've read online, they don't actually load them up fully as much as they could carry, like ever. Just because it's, to do what they could actually carry is just too much of a payload, and it's a waste of fuel. Okay, so we've got 4 of these things out now, and we need to install them. And so they go in the bottom of the plane. I can see mounting point right here and right here. I believe so. I believe that's where they go. Let's take a look at the instructions. And yes, there and there. Okay, so kind of in that point there and that point there. It's a little bit hard to see because of the wheel in the way. Let's reposition this so that you might be able to see right here. Okay, right there. Right there, right there, and right there, right there. Those 2 spots. So it looks like our holes in the fuselage are square, and these are round. And yet they look like they'll fit, so it looks like they're not going to really be an issue. So let's get some glue ready. And let's put some glue in this one first. Okay, I kind of have to put it down, get this ready, and then put it in here. So you don't really go anywhere really. I'm not sure if it's supposed to line up. Like, they don't show the orientation if it's supposed to sit like this, straight up, or straight down. My guess is it sits straight down. Could have this lined up straight, that would help. So that's how my guess is and how the orientation is, that the missile's going to cradle in it like that. Okay, so let's put some glue on the other part and get the second one installed. Them straight in a row, and they don't like to just sit there, do you? Looks pretty straight up and down, and this one actually rests against the fuselage a little bit, so we can add a little extra glue for strength and getting that second one in there. And so there's 2 of them like that. All right, all right. Flip over to this side. We'll do this one first. Okay, and our fourth one's gonna go in this spot here. And then, bingo. Just making sure I have it parallel, straight up and down. That looks pretty good. Oh, I just broke one of my landing gear bay doors off. I just bumped it and it fell off. So that needs to be re-glued. Good thing I got my glue out already. So we got to put some glue back on this, and I'm going to use the thicker glue to re-glue our door. I put a little way too much glue on it. Let's grab a Q-tip here. A little bit way too much. So back to gluing this on. And there we go. Our landing gear door is back on. Okay, so that's that. We're going to let this sit for a few minutes. Let that glue dry. The other thing I wanted to take care of, I don't know what I just dropped on the floor. The other thing I wanted to take care of, we're looking at our instructions. We've got our missiles glued to the wingtips. We've got missiles glued to our pods, but then we're not ready to put those in yet. This is all done. I'm not going to be installing this AN/ASQ228 AT FLIR. I'm not installing this thing, and the reason why is our D1 mount for it does not really line up with the fuselage at all. I don't like it. It just doesn't look correct. So I'm not going to be installing that. And of course, instead I'm going to be putting two AMRAAMs on our underneath there. So I think what I can install is probably our little tip guys here at the front here, our R30 and R4s. Those can go on up at the front. So let's have a look for those. So here's one of the R4s. You know, I can't tell you how many airplane kits over the years I've installed these and broken off. Just because it's just one of those things. Handling it later on, after I glue it in and I'm painting and I'm moving the kit around and doing all this stuff, and then I wind up just breaking it off. This is not an R sprue. This is an R sprue, and I want the other R4. So we got two of these guys. There we go. Okay, this guy needs to make sure, I gotta make sure this guy's flat so he will mount properly. And these guys have little tabs on them to locate them. And those are gonna get located into these two little guys here and here. And then our R30 is going to go in the center here. Let's see if he'll fit without any glue. Look at that. Isn't he a peach? He fits without any glue at all. He's willing to just sit in his new home. Just like that. So we're just going to make sure he is straight up and down, because he is straight in the middle. Yep, he's good. So that's that guy. Now we got to put a little glue here. And then install this guy. There's one. Okay, I'm going to turn my plane here a little bit so I can see. So we got him right there, right? He's installed right there. And like I said, he's one of those things that I tend to always break off later on when I'm carelessly moving the model around, grabbing onto it. The next thing I know, I've broken one off, and then it looks stupid because I've only got one on there. And there we go. So there's our two, or three pieces up front there. Okay, so that's that. So I think that's all the little bits that are supposed to go underneath the bottom of the plane here, except of course for our ordnance. I think I could probably put our center fuel tank in. Remember last time we put the mount on him. He's just going to sit in the middle here like this. Just like so. And fall off. Why did he fall off? Because I didn't even press him into the holes. Here, he's pressed in now. It's not the best fit as far as the mount connecting to the fuselage. It's like the curvature just doesn't quite match. There's got a bit of a gap going on in there, but I'm not really going to complain too much about it because I don't feel like complaining too much about it. So let's pull this out. It's a tight fit in those holes. And I'm going to put some glue along here. I'm going to put my thicker glue. Just kind of slather it along here. I want to tighten up this bottle. All right, let's put him in his new home. There we go. Glue, of course, acts like a lubricant, so it's nice and easy to fit in there. And it sits pretty straight. Looks pretty good. I like the fact, like you probably notice on the camera, the tonal difference between the bottom of the plane and the fuel tank. And I like that because you know what? The fuel tank could have come off from a totally different airplane and just, yeah, it just looks different. And yet the weapon pod looks like it's part of the plane. So that's good. I like that. I like that look. It looks good. Okay, so our other fuel tanks are not ready to go in. I can't believe they want 4 fuel tanks. Well, they give you you got the option of doing 4 fuel tanks on the bottom. Technically 5, but anyway, what I'm going to do is empty racks like this. No, I'm not. I am doing 2 fuel tanks and 2 sidewinder, or 2 AMRAAMs. What about my third ones? Where are my other weapon pods? Oh, they're over here. So I'm going to do 2 fuel tanks, 2 empty pods, and then 2 AMRAAMs. That's what I'm going to do. Fuel tanks are going to go here. I believe my setup is going to be like this one, or like this. I'm going to have it like this, like the VFA 103, that guy there. Okay, 3 tanks with weapons on the outside pods. That's what I'm doing. Okay. So my middle pods, I could actually, no, these are all the same, so it's not going to really make any difference. I could put these in. I do want to glue the pods onto the tanks before I glue them on the wings, but my empty ones can go in. The only thing I want to make sure is that I don't have a step here. I want to make sure that's flat. So I want to just file this down a little bit and flatten that out so it's a nice flat surface for the glue. Okay. So the more contact we get, the better glue we'll get, the better the more chance it's going to stay forever. I can't tell you how many times I've had airplanes where you pick them up and move them, and you drop a weapon pod off of it because you bumped it just a little hair, and yeah, so it'd be nice to have a flat surface for it to glue to. So that one, and he's going to go on the end in the middle here. Okay, a good press. And when you got a flat surface, you can feel that it's flat and nice and level, and it's 90 degrees and it's straight, and it feels right. It just feels right. There we go. Okay, 2 are installed. I could do my AMRAAMs just like that. Fits nice. But in similar fashion, I want to make sure we've got no step there. Okay. And we've got 1 AMRAAM installed. There we go. there's one. Let's turn the plane. And we'll get our other one installed. Just going to do a quick little filing on this guy here before we go anywhere. Do a test fit. Yep, he's going to be good. He'll be good. Okay, again, make sure he's straight up and down, just like his friend. Second AMRAAM installed. Alright, our plane's getting dangerous, guys. Okay, so now we're going to let this all dry nicely and let that cure. Okay, we're going to set this aside. Now, we're going to deal with our 2 extra fuel tanks here. So, how am I going to do that? I'm going to deal with have some engine grime, and we're going to do the same thing that we did before. I can put the lid on my glue, put the lid on this glue, put the glue aside, because we're going to deal with these. Okay, now my other fuel tank, I had to drill out the holes a little bit, so I might as well just do a little test and see. Because our pods that these are going to go on, I want to make sure this is going to fit. It's a tight fit, but it goes good. It fits good. So that's good for that one. How about this guy? There we go. She holds. This is pretty good. And that's because I've got some paint in the holes, making them a little tighter, but that is perfectly fine. I could actually glue it like this and just leave it like that. But, in fact, I just might do that. No, I'm not going to do that. Let's get some schmutz on these. So what I'm going to do is get some engine grime and go doink 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 doink. Just like that. And so, what did I do to get the other tank looking like I did? Well, I'll show you guys. It's a little bit messy, it's not very refined, but I just dip into my thinner here, get my brush nice and wet, and get this so liquidy that it literally runs down the tank. And creates, you know what happens with real fuel tanks, right? You get that, all that schmutz at the bottom where it all accumulates, where all your rain and everything runs down. And just accumulates on the bottom of the tanks. And that's really all I'm doing, is just recreating that. Recreating that same kind of look. this point, it's a good idea to grab onto it with my calipers, because I'm just going to get thinner and everything all over my fingers. So I'll just grab onto it with that. And we can clean this up a little bit and refine it. Give it some streaks. Because the bottom is where it's all going to look like crap. That's the whole point. It's looking like crap on the bottom. You know, in old World War II planes and stuff like that, these tanks really took a beating. Now, if you happen to go, you know what, it looks too much, it's too dirty, I don't like it anymore, I've gone too far with it and it doesn't look good. Well, that's quite alright. What I want to do is do some lines here to show some of the streaking. I want the streaking going down. And at the top, we can just grab this and kind of dab a little bit to clean up the top, make it a little cleaner up top here, without it being really any kind of a hard line. We can clean up our excess here. And that's that. So we get a really dirty looking tank. Is it too much? I don't think so. I think it's realistic. I can let it dry, and if I want to clean it up and refine it a little more, I can, right? I can do that. I want to have some more streaking here on it. On the side here. Streak it in the same direction of the gravity that we were trying to reproduce. Yeah, there we go. There's one. I'm gonna let that one dry. Okay. Clean up my mess here. Okay. Now before I get my fingers dirty, I'm gonna grab this one like that. And we'll do the same thing with this one. Again, just reactivate all this stuff, liquefy it all. Go across the top. If you want to kind of recreate like a fuel stain or a run, you can do that too. You just have to be a little bit more refined with how you're doing it, that's all. I don't think I'm wanting to do any kind of a leak or anything like that. But maybe when they were filling the tank one time, they spilt a little bit down the side, and of course it's a fuel tank, so who cares? They don't need to clean it up, right? Along the bottom here is where you need to have it dirtiest, because that's where stuff's just going to accumulate and, all that fun stuff. So once again, it's just a matter of how dirty or how not dirty you want to have it. It's really up to you. This one I think I'll do a little bit cleaner. So I'll just clean up my sides a little bit more. actually going to turn this around. It's easier for me to do it in this direction. Clean up this side just a little more. And that way it all accumulates at the bottom of the tank, and she looks good. Alright, so I got lots of streaks, lots of where it's going to come down, and it's looking all nice and messy at the bottom here, and that's exactly what I want. That's the look I'm going for. Okay, we're going to let this dry. Okay, so I'm going to clean up my brush, and I think that's actually going to be it for today, guys. I'm going to have to let that dry before we can do anything more with it. Like I just said, we're going to have to let those tanks dry before I can actually put them on. And so I think that's going to be it for today. Yeah. I'm happy with the progress we're making. I have a feeling that, you know, I should be able to get this plane finished before I head off and get in my own plane off to Korea. I am hoping to have it finished before I leave, so that I'm not leaving you guys hanging for 3 weeks waiting for the completion of this kit. So, with that being said, I want to thank you guys for joining me on this journey, and I appreciate the fact that you guys were actually waiting for me to continue on the build and to actually finish this. I think next time we're going to start working on the canopy. We're going to get the canopy parts installed, because I have this all painted and she's ready for the little parts that go on the inside of this guy. Yeah, as you can tell, we got a black frame in our canopy. I'm going to leave that on leave the tape on the outside for now. That's what we're going to leave it. And yeah, so actually it looks like I've got a little spot that maybe I didn't quite get. It's a little bit showing through. I can see light through it. But I think once it's on the plane it might be okay. I don't know. I can always just do a little touch up on it, and that's probably what I'll do. Anyway, guys, thanks again for watching, and thanks for joining me on this. I really appreciate it. Also, leave a comment down below. I love to read your comments, guys. You guys know that I do interact with you through comments, so yeah, since none of you watch me live and you don't comment live, anyway, speaking of that, check out the description box. You're going to see links to my other things, like my Instagram, my X, my Twitch channel, which I'm broadcasting live all the time, and you can talk to me live if you feel like it. The chat pops up and we can talk. I know that a lot of you guys, even you guys who do watch me live, you don't say anything. The one thing I do get in my chat all the time is those bots all the time trying to advertise stuff. Anyway, thanks again, guys. We'll catch you all on the next one.